Welcome to Cash Call. Listen live as expert sales trainers give actionable feedback on real calls while you learn coaching tips directly from the professionals. Cash Call, everybody, 2024. Brian, can you believe it? We've been doing this since 1980, man. It's been a long time.
It really is kind of crazy. I was talking to somebody the other day. I think technically we're in our fifth year.
That's amazing. And you know, the funny thing about that, Brian, I'm in my trainer meeting yesterday. And my lead trainer, Lori, goes, "Oh, hey, Dale, are you going to last minute ask us for a call tomorrow since tomorrow's Wednesday and you have cash call?" I was like, shit, I totally forgot about it again. Now that you mention it, hey, can you submit a call for tomorrow? And then Lori forgot to do it. So we did get it together. I have a call for today, but even doing it for however long, 5 years, dude, I still somehow forget. And then all of a sudden it's Wednesday again.
Yeah, it's just, it is what it is. I mean, I usually look at my calendar and go, oh, yeah, if I'm in a really good place, I'll get it done Tuesday afternoon. But usually about 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I prepare because Wednesday's a busy day for me. So,
I know,
we're real estate agents at heart, right? So
yes,
we got to wait to the last minute to do something.
I know. It's terrible, man. And then I got wise and I was like, wait a minute, everybody. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I do a podcast every Wednesday. How about you guys just start stacking up calls for me since you know it's coming next Wednesday? That I just delegate. I am the world's best middle manager. I'm terrible at doing anything. I'm really good at asking other people to do stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a skill I've worked on over the years because I was a really good, I'll just do it myself guy.
Oh, yeah.
And you get high quality that way, but you get burnout and you really max your capacity pretty quick. And so I had to give that up because the reality was it wasn't going to work out for me. So,
yeah, I hear you. So what do you have for the frothing masses today that want sales training?
yeah, so I've got a pretty good call overall, and there's some interesting points that go on at the session recorded available after this one. You want to answer that real quick?
Sure.
Is the session recorded and available after the webinar?
I think we have to tell Brian not to stop mid-thought and read the chat. Yes. Let me read the chat. It says, is the session, Zanamar wrote, is the session recorded and available after the webinar? Yes, it is, Zana. It usually takes about probably 24. I'm not going to answer this. Somehow the gnomes back at the workshop take this recording, they process it, they put it onto YouTube, and they publish it as a podcast. And I don't know how the process works, but it will be available. And if you've registered, I think we send you the replay.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So I won't get distracted and read the comments in the section anymore. That being said, we got a good call. So a little struggle on the front end, does a great job recovering from that. Basically doesn't have the information about the house that she's calling about, does a great job with that, does some decent discovery, but opportunities for that. And then we get some pushback at the end. And so lots of good opportunities here. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share this. I've got a new system. So if for whatever reason you can't, I can make it louder. So, a couple of weeks ago, we had that one. Nobody could hear it. So, all right, here we go. Please give me a thumbs up if we can hear it.
Hello. Hi. Realtor.com just asked me to give you a quick call and touch base on some of your search requests. Who am I speaking with?
This is Keely.
Hi, Keely. So tell me more about what you're looking for. The automated system didn't give me an exact address, but I would love to answer any questions or help you out.
Oh, yeah. What do you have? What does it show?
So I felt like it was a good try to say, hey, information, but maybe why don't you give people a little bit better direction so she doesn't go, well, what do you got? So
yeah. I think what I'd say instead of I don't have the info or it didn't send all the info, I'd say the information hasn't come through yet. Which property were you inquiring about, right? If you want to know which property, and then immediately ask, when would you like to go see it? I think that's kind of the best practices there.
Sure. And also, if you have no idea, if they don't have the idea of the property, say, no problem, I can pull your say, what are you looking for? I can help you find anything.
Yeah.
And so going into discovery, which is where she's going to go here in a second, but it's funny. The quality of the questions you ask really determines the quality of the answers you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to be a little bit more precise so that we get the answer we're looking for. Not how can I help you? Well, I don't know. How can you help me? And then you end up in this, this thing. And so I thought she did an overall decent job, but just a little bit more precision there might have helped. So here we go.
I feel like we've been looking at so many houses now. I'm like, I don't even know what I've asked about at this point.
Right?
Mm.
Yeah. So it didn't give me any information yet. Sometimes there's a delay. So tell me more about like an ideal city, location,
Yeah,
type of
we were
home.
looking.
Give me just
We were
generic.
looking in Bentonville area, a little bit of Centerton, Cave Springs area.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've got quite a few listings and everything from, there's a little house
Pause that.
down, not little, it's a great.
So I don't like that she immediately switches into we've got several listings, which suggests that other people have other listings. And in fact,
Okay.
we all have all the listings.
Right, 'cause we're real estate agents, we have access to everything.
We have access to everything. And I don't like that as soon as she started to get the lead to start talking, she cut in with telling the lead stuff, right? Or making offers to the lead. Uh, I prefer to keep getting that info from the lead as long as they want to let it flow. And if it gets a little dry or they get a little standoffish, then do some rapport building and try to warm it back up to where they're going to give you some more info. But don't be so quick. Like I can tell you something at any moment, right? I can try to put something into the conversation at any moment, but I only want to do that when it makes sense to do it. And in this case, I don't think it made sense. She was willing to give more info, so let her keep doing it.
Right. So, hey, obviously you don't remember what house that you sent in. I don't have that information right now. Well, why don't we just get a little bit of information and I'll see what availability we have. So out of curiosity, what is your price point? What's the most money you guys are interested in looking at a house? Going through that here is a little bit better because what she's going to do, and I'll fast forward through some of it. She's going to say, oh, we got a house for $200,000 and we got a house for $2 million. Well, no one's price range is $1.8 million of difference, right? Unless you're looking at $10 million houses. So
I got a $1.8 million swing.
Give or take, $1.8 million. So yeah, that's something I think is important. So anyway, she's going to ask her for some discovery questions, but I'm going to fast forward to this a little bit because otherwise this is going to be the whole show. But I wanted to play a little bit more because there's some good stuff that happens here, and then there's an opportunity that is interesting. So
Renting. We're in an apartment right now.
So she does ask, are you currently renting or you're currently owning? Actually, she asked, what is here? I'm just going to play that because that's a really good opportunity as well. So here we go.
Overwhelmed at this point that I'm like, I don't even know what we want or need right now.
Yeah. So are you're living in Northwest Arkansas or?
Yes. Yeah, we're in downtown Bentonville right now.
Okay. And what about your current home isn't meeting your needs?
So we're renting. We're in an apartment right now.
Okay, cool.
So we're just trying to decide if we want to continue renting or if we're kind of just toying with the idea of if we want to buy right now or not.
Yeah. Have you spoken with a lender about what a good budget for your family would be?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that's okay. Most people kind of start with.
Pause that.
The
Do you hear that response to, did you speak to a lender?
Interesting, isn't it?
The prospect almost said it. Her tone was like, I did something wrong, or I'm not in the right place because I haven't done my homework first, right?
Right.
So I'm pointing this out, and you know it too, Brian. It's so important because psychologically, it has that impact for people. When we ask them if they've taken certain steps, especially around money and financing and things like that, it sets up a weird dynamic. And so I'm pointing it out because you just need to be careful when you do it or when you don't do it. And you can even preface it before you ask that. Where she said, we're renting now, we're considering making a purchase, right? And the agent went to, great, have you spoken to a lender yet? She can affirm them first and then ask and say, hey, that's fantastic. You're in the right place and you're following the right path to make this happen. Have you hit the step of speaking to a mortgage lender yet? Right.
Yeah.
So all I did is just use some softening language to say, hey, you're good. You're in the right spot. Don't get scared. I'm going to ask you a scary question now.
Okay. Another thing I want to add to it that I think Dale picked up on this. He didn't use this thing, but notice we're 2 minutes and 32 seconds into this call. She had not called her ma'am until she asked the question about financing. And that kind of reinforces Dale's point is all of a sudden we went from friends to authority figure.
Right.
And so me personally, I would want to go, the bell that rings here is I don't have enough rapport with this person. I need to work on that because I don't want someone to look at me as their boss, I want them to go, I like being with Brian and he's going to sell me a house. So just be careful of that. If that's the dynamic you want, awesome. It's not the dynamic that I want. So, and one of the things that, I train on all the time is we don't always know what things mean, but we know something changed. Pay attention to changes and then try and figure out what they mean. So we'll play a little bit more.
Realtor and like looking at homes first. And then as a realtor, I have several lender partners that can help you get pre-qualified and determine a good budget for your family.
There it is again.
Yeah.
Are you wanting to keep your monthly payment right about where you're renting right now, or do you have wiggle room?
Oh, that's babe. My husband's sitting right here. I'm like, I feel like he kind of does all of that for us.
Yeah, I understand. My husband does all ours too.
So I like what she did right there. She built rapport with her. Oh, I understand. My husband does all of our financial stuff too.
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
That is
I'm going to play a little bit more of it because he's about to come on the phone and then it gets interesting.
I'm like looking at him across the room like, I don't know. Babe, do you want to?
Oh, wait, pause this. Can you pause it for me for a second? I want to say this to all the listeners. About 80% of the time, when you're talking to one party and there's a spouse, significant other, roommate, deadbeat kid who lives in the basement, within earshot of you having that conversation with this person, that other person 80% of the time doesn't want to talk to you, doesn't know, like, or trust you, doesn't want to engage with you, and is generally opposed to you. Just start there, okay? Now, I don't know how this is going to go. Based on the smile on Brian's face, I don't know how in line what I just said is with this call, but it happens really frequently, so you have to be aware of that and prepared for it.
Well, here we go.
100, and I think
I'm going to rewind it just a second. Okay, there we go.
We're kind of just doing the research collection phase right now. Our rent is around 2,200, and I think if we keep a mortgage under 2,800, that would be doable without making too many life changes. But I know right now in that market it's kind of hard.
So here's something I wanted to point out, and I don't know if you would do this. I would. As a matter of fact, I did it when I was listening to this call. So this guy said we're currently paying 2,200, 2,800 would probably still be comfortable, which means to me, so with 3,000, I wouldn't probably push anywhere past that. But I plugged that into my calculator to get an idea what that is. So when I did that, that's going to run, so 350,000 runs about 2,200 right now, plus taxes and insurance. So 350,000 is well inside, maybe even up to 400, depending on, there's different factors, insurance and things like that. But ultimately, my point of this is there's plenty of houses in our market for $400,000. She doesn't bother to point that out. And I think that's a mistake because this guy doesn't know if he can afford the house he wants unless he's looking for a mansion. Yeah.
You said 2,500 is about 400K?
So principal and interest on 350 is 2,155 principal and interest.
So 2,200 was around 400K. And he said
2,800 is probably about 400K, by the way.
The reason I'm asking is because he said here's what we're thinking, but I think there's not a lot in that market. Was he saying there's not a lot in the 2200 category?
I think so, but and again, we probably need to do a little bit more discovery.
Okay.
He said he'd pay up to $2,800 a month comfortably. So I would ask out of curiosity, so what do do you have any idea what $2,800 buys? Because I think sometimes people don't have a perception of what their money buys, whether that's high or low. Like I've dealt with it low a lot. Like I remember back in the days, Zillow used to put up stuff on their page. It was like they give you the monthly payment, assuming 20% down and no insurance or taxes. And so people would call me like, "Can I buy this house for $600 a month?" I'm like, "No, you can't." So anyway, it's one of those things we have to be careful of. But
So we're kind of still in the collection phase, and we may be in a spot where we might push it another year or so, and then revisit the idea.
Yeah. Well, I'm a first-time homebuyer specialist, as well as like even if you've owned a home before, if this would be your first home in Arkansas, we have a little bit different paperwork and different processes than maybe other places. I'd love to just get together with you, grab you a cup of coffee. We could meet at like Onyx there and just go through the buying process, give you some tips, and then from there we could develop a strategy for price point and a search criteria that would really meet your needs, and just help you get on that path, whether it's soon, like this spring, or a year from now. It generally takes about 90 days from the point that you first start to really.
All right, pause this for me, Brian. Okay, so a couple of I'm going to say some good things and some concerning things. One is she customized the close based on what he had just said, which is, hey, I'd love to get together, right, and answer these questions in case it's now or later, right, a year from now. So she took what he said, she baked it into the close, which was really good. Some things that are concerning me is that she's doing a lot of telling and a lot of offering without first checking to see what this guy already thinks he knows or what his plan might be. And so what I mean by that is he said, hey, we're at 22. We can comfortably go to 28. Looks like there's not much in the 22 category. We're trying to decide whether it'll be now or down the road later on in a year, right? Well, where did he get all this information from, right? And how much experience does he have? And how will he decide whether now or later? Those are just some 3 key questions that I want before I try to pitch him for a close, because in those 3 key questions may be some parts of an objection that I'll get when I make that ask.
Agree. So to me, hey, if you guys, and when he said, I might be waiting a year or so, I think was his exact, I don't remember, but it's close. I would have come listen, waited for him to stop and go, Dale, I can really appreciate that. Out of curiosity, just so I have a better understanding, what do you guys feel like might be the benefit of waiting a year, just so I can understand?
Great question.
And yeah, so then they may say, oh, well, we got to save, you've heard this, which is the most crazy thing in the world to me, but I hear this so many times. Well, we only have, $30,000 and we know we need 20% down.
Yeah, that's one.
I mean, if you don't ask that question and you get that objection and you get it out, you're like, man, this is cha-ching. So what I'm hearing, if with the current down payment that you have, if you could buy a house right now, you'd love to. Yeah, absolutely. I've got good news for you. So if you don't do the discovery, you don't know what the objection is.
This reminds me of my brother-in-law. My wife and I were like hammering my sister and brother-in-law, trying to get them to move into our area. And so my brother-in-law's objection was, I'm not going to take out a 30-year loan. I'll only take out 15 years going forward. Nice. I cannot listen. I'm a pro at this stuff. I can't get him around it, but it reminds me of that, right? Like we don't know exactly how this guy's thinking or how he's doing the math. And to me, like as an agent and a real estate investor, I'm like, other people's money all day long, baby, right? I'll buy as much real estate as I can with your money. But other people don't look at stuff that way. And I never even anticipated that would be the objection, which is I won't take out longer than a 15-year loan. you know, so you never know what's hiding within their words.
Yep. I'm going to play it just kind of, I fast forward, I think I got to the right spot, but she basically asked this guy if he wants to meet, and that's where kind of where we're at.
Hey, we met. We had a great conversation. You learned something. I'm happy to do it, and I'm a full-time realtor, so I'm flexible on time.
Wait.
So that would work for you.
She made the ask, and are we done with the ask? And he answered?
Let me go back. I apologize.
Why don't you text your contact information, or if you have a virtual business card, to this number, so we have your information, and then we can kind of keep you updated with what we decide. Because I don't want you
go back farther to the end of her ask and see what he did.
Afternoon available.
Okay, sorry. Hold on. There we go.
Searching process can take, another 30 to 60 days ahead of that.
Sure.
So would you all want to get together for a cup of coffee? I've got tomorrow afternoon around 1 o'clock. I have most of the afternoon available. But I could bring you just some materials and sort of the buyer's guide that I have, and just kind of give you the information so that you've got it, and when you're ready, I'll be ready.
Yeah, we may. We're going out of town this weekend to meet some family. So we might not be able to do this weekend.
Okay.
But we do have some like personal conversations to have, whether I'm like buying right now at the time, and I don't want to waste your time. So if you have this number, so
yeah, he's putting her off.
Yeah. So we heard what happened. Now, this is a massive key. I'm going to say this. She got that objection because she didn't fish it out before she made the ask. That's one. Two, she has an opportunity for a second bite at the apple. When he says, we need to have some internal conversations as to whether now is the time to buy, I would get into that conversation on the phone with him by asking, got it. So tell me this, when you're trying to decide, what information do you need to help you decide whether now is the time to buy or not? Now, notice it took me a minute to think up this question. So that's why we do this. That's why we review calls, man. That's why salespeople have to review their calls. Like, I wouldn't have come up with that shit in the midst of this call either, because I just had to think of it, right?
So, yeah.
But when you do that, then you can do it in real time. And so, and I'm sorry, I had to give a little commercial for why you should be recording your conversations and listening to them.
I agree. And so I'm much more of I like to subtly tell people what to do. I don't know a better way to say it than that. So I probably would have said this, Dale, sounds like you're a person who likes to gather a lot of information so that you can make sure that you make the best decision for you and your family. Did I read that right? I know I read it right, because that's exactly who this guy is. Absolutely. Okay. You know what? Me too. Like my wife does research. We do all this stuff. We want to make sure there's so much information out there. Here's the thing. What I would love to do is, whether you're going to buy now or buy 5 years from now, I would love to potentially be your agent. With that in mind, my job as an agent is to help people get all the information that they need so that they can make a best decision for them and their family. So I know you're not available this weekend, but I have time both next Saturday and next Sunday. Which of those would be better for us to get together so that we can get you that information so you can make the best decision for you and your family? Telling them what to do, because here's where she missed, in my opinion. Would you like to get back together for a cup of coffee? Nope, I'm good. Hey, I think it would be a really good plan for us to get together for a cup of coffee. I've got available so that we can put together a plan so you guys can move forward. With that in mind, I've got available a time in the evening or on the weekend, which would work better for you.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So rather than offer, you want to suggest.
Yeah. And now, not everybody works that way, but I find that to be much more powerful. Here's what I found over 20 years of being in sales is that most people will do what you tell them to do if you tell them subtly what to do. If you ask them a yes, no question, sometimes they say no.
Yeah, I think that I agree with that. I think it'd be better for her if she had proposed it. But I think that even if she had proposed rather than asking in this situation, she probably would have still come up with the same answer, because because she didn't excise his objections ahead of time, right?
I agree.
And another thing I want to point out for people listening, notice what he said was, hey, we need to have some internal conversations about whether now is the right time to buy or not, right?
Mhm.
So what that tells you is he does not regard her or a real estate agent as a critical piece of his ability to decide whether now is the right time to buy or not, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. And I also think this, and this is just a complete, what I would refer to as mind read. I don't think that he gives a rip what his wife thinks either.
I wouldn't be shocked if that were true.
Think about it. She had no idea. And I'm glad that we got on the phone with him because he's clearly the one who drives the bus.
Right.
And that's okay. I mean, in every relationship, there's each person has certain roles. I'm not no judgment on what those roles are, but it really feels clear to me that he is the person who's going to make the decision. He's the one driving the bus. And so moving forward, whether you like him or not, he's the guy we need to be having conversations with because I feel like he could tell her, no, we're going to work with somebody else just like that. And she would go,
I want to go in line with that too. And this agent might actually be in a disadvantage being a female, frankly,
yes,
talking to this guy, right? Because
right.
if that's the scenario where he's self-appointed as being in charge, he may not give a lot of credibility to this agent because she's a female. I mean, we're making
it up.
What's that?
I said, we're making it up, but this is our read.
We are making it up. It's a little bit of a read. And, let's say that I was the agent in this situation, and I'm listening to this dynamic, I might know, I'm like, all right, how am I going to play this? Am I going to be nice and sort of nice this guy? Or am I going to try to show up big and kind of throw some authority and, like you said, suggest rather than ask politely? You know what I mean? Am I going to turn it up a little bit, turn up the aggression a little bit, or turn up the confidence and the forwardness a little bit as a result? So it's a consideration. Like, in reality, sales is a human contact sport. So
and we got to do it in the moment too. Like, it's also easy for us to sit here and think about this after the fact. So
right.
That's why, again, Dale says record your calls, listen to your calls, because if you've had 10,000 calls, this isn't the first time you've had this scenario. If you had 5 calls, this is the first time you've had this scenario. So you got to practice. And sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. That's okay. Just if you get it wrong, get it right next time.
Yep, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Try to get it righter next time.
Yeah.
All right. So it looks like we're over time. We can't do too much in one session, Brian. It'll overload the circuits for these people. Like they need to digest all this amazingness. So everybody, thanks for joining us. Cash Call for today. Brian Curtis, Dale Archdekin signing off until next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Cash Call today. If you like what you heard, come check us out at smartsalescoaching.com, and we'll be back again next week.